So what I suggest for your slab box that you're going to make, you may make your box 4 sides, 3 sides, whatever you want. But what I'm going to be demonstrating today is how to make a 4-sided box. So if you want to adapt it to whatever, however many sides of the box you want, that's fine. But it's nice, it's easy to make the 4-sided box because Farnas made us those little angle cutters, which I'll be demonstrating how to use in a few minutes. So it cuts a 45-degree angle. So if you have a 4-sided box, it miters the edge perfectly so you can attach it together. So that makes it really more convenient to do a 4-sided box if you are using that. I have rolled out my slabs on the slab roller, and then I applied texture, and then I stretched them out like I showed everybody how to do last semester in the 708 class. And most of you know how to do that, but if you don't know how to do that, we'll be demonstrating that a little bit later too, and Farnas will be filming that. So what I suggest that you do is roll out the slabs first at 3/8 of an inch, flip them, roll them back through at 1/4 inch, apply texture, stretch it out, and so when you're stretching from all directions. Pull it this way, turn it, pull it the other way, and then so in all 4 directions basically. So you end up with 1/4 inch slabs. Then you're going to take a straight edge, and I've just kind of lined them up because it's easy to cut several slabs at a time this way. So all you need to do is get a straight edge on the edge of one of these slabs to begin with. So I like to use the triangle to do this. Cut a straight edge, and then you can take the T-square and put it against that edge to get a straight edge on the bottom. And then you can also use that same edge to get a straight edge on the top. So now the top and the bottom of the slabs are parallel. Now I can get my sides, the size of my sides. So this one is the size of one side I want to do, so I'm just putting it right on top of this one and cutting. And I like my box, I'm going to build a box that's going like this, more of a vertical. But you can also do boxes like this if you want, it's your choice. But I would say don't go larger than 6 inches in any direction for your first box because you can, but it will warp a lot, so just be aware of that. So 6 inches unsupported has less chance of warping. Now I need to do 2 for the sides. So usually I like to do my boxes rectangular. So I have these 2 sides smaller than these sections. So I'm going to just put this on top of here and come over a little bit. So now I'm cutting my 2 side sections. Okay, so that's my 4 sides. Now I want to get my top and my bottom. So what I usually do is I just measure what I have here for my box, the size. So this one is about 4.5 inches, and this one is about 2.5. So 4.5, 2.5. So I'm going to cut 5 by 3 for my base. So I'm going to start by, once again, getting a straight edge on this. cut it larger than what I need, because you can always cut it down later. So 5 by 3 is what I said, correct? 5.
Yes.
So cut 5 inches in this direction. So that's 5. I need to do 3 in this direction. So that's going to be for the base. I'm going to go a little bit larger than 3.
What's it?
Okay, and then I need a lid for it, so I'm going to go larger than this. So I just put it in the middle of a slab like this and cut larger. I'm fond lately of doing those little lids that look like the top of a house, U-shaped, so you need a little bit more for that. So the way I do it is just cut it larger all the way around in the base, and then later on I can always cut parts off of that. Alright, so this little tool for Knossos comes really handy now. The only thing I need is, could someone get me a wooden slab under the sink, a wooden board? Thank you. So we're going to miter the edges using Knossos tool. And her tool works really great if your slabs are like a soft leather hard. So you don't want to have them too soft to do this technique, but if you let them get too stiff, if you use a wire tool like this, it'll just it'll tear off the edges. So if your slabs get too dry, what you want to do is take the Sureform file and use this, or if your sides are not perfectly square, so it's not going to be a 45-degree angle, you'll have to use a Sureform file. So this is the way, if it's too dry, or if you want to deviate from the 45-degree angle, that's the way you're going to do all of your meeting joints. But if they're nice and soft like these are, you're just going to line this up on the edge, and then take her tool, which is a 45-degree tool, and you're just going to pull it through. Yes, we're not making. So it makes very short work of all of these.
She made it for her or for herself?
She made it for us. This one wasn't cut.
Look at how easy it
Yeah, it's very easy. But like I say, they do need to be a soft leather hard if you're going to do this, because if they're stiff or on their way to being bone dry, when you do this, we'll see even that one, it kind of chunked off the side right there. So it works very well if they're soft. And it works well if you're trying to get 45 degrees. If you're going off into a box that has 5 sides or 6 sides, or it's got all these different angles like some of those I have in the display case, you're going to have to hand cut them with this to get the angle. This is probably going to be like 60 degrees or 40 degrees, so you're not going to use this one. Okay, so now we're going to start putting the box together. Why does that one little thing always disappear? There it is. So score the sides. And go well past the point where you think you're going to be joining, and then you won't have as much trouble with those sides cracking and falling apart. So I'm not just scoring this immediate join, I'm going well past it, so that when I'm spreading the clay into that area, there will still be tooth for it all to stick together. lot of people complain that their seams come open on their boxes. So when you're making the box, it is a several day endeavor because you need to first roll out the slabs, let them dry out to leather consistency, and then start joining the box, and then you have to slowly dry it. You need to catch it before it gets too dry. If you try to join your slabs when they're dry, it will crack open. This is a different technique for joining boxes together than I've used in the past. So if you're looking at it and you're thinking, God, that's not the way she showed me before, I came up with a technique that I feel works better for joining. So if you think it looks different, it's because it is. Take this one, hold it against there so you get a nice perpendicular wall to your base. And then you need to take some fresh clay. Give me a little bit of clay out there. Just a bit. That's good.
Just that.
Take some nice fresh clay, roll it into a coil. The reason I think that this technique works better than the one I used to use in the past, which, let me explain what the one was I used to use. I would take the base and I would build on top of the base. So I'd build it straight up on the base. Well, then I was unable to do this, which was using a lot of pressure for joining. So I feel like this has been working much better to keep the walls together. Because when you're working vertically, you don't have two boards that you're pushing it against as you do this, and therefore you don't have the same pressure.
I accidentally did it right.
You accidentally did it this way? Well, great. Because I just do this in my studio one day at home too. Just, I don't know why I changed the way I was working, but after I did it, I thought, God, that, no cracking, nothing. That's great. So I suggest you get like something like this to work against. And you're doing this so that you have nice pressure.
And you didn't even scold it.
I scored it heavily.
No, I'm talking about the coating.
No, you don't have to because the rest, it's so wet right now. Lots of scoring. Okay, so some of you can't see what I'm doing right now, but I just flipped it on the side that I'm trying to join. So this part right here is the side I'm going to be joining right now. Supported against there. So it's still between two walls, two surfaces as you're doing your joining. And then you just run your coil through the middle of it, like so. And then press down and join. If it's too small to get your hand in there, you can always use some kind of a joining tool, like a wooden tool, to get in there. The lovely thing about this too is it's open from the two sides, so it enables you to get all the way to the bottom, all the way to the top. Try to find a clean spot every time you do this because you don't want your box to stick to the board that you're working on. So I press it together with my fingers, and then I go back in and either with my fingers or a tool smooth it all out so that it's seamless in there. And then at this stage, I usually let it dry out just a little while because it's really soft now. Your next thing that you're going to want to do is make sure the top and the bottom are level. And to do that efficiently, you'll want to level it off with the Surefirm file. And you know if you do it right now, it's really, really soft, and so you won't be able to get a good cut. But I'll show you on one that I've already started, the consistency. If you want it to be is a little more hardened up like this, and then you can take the Surefirm file and holding the seams as you do this, you can get leveled off very nicely once it sets up a little while. Just like that. So, this has now set up enough, just being out in the sun. I took it out there, nice bright sunny day, 80 degrees, took it out there, let it dry up this way, turned it over. So remember when I put together how like it was even like squishy, right? So now I can pick it up and handle it and I'm not in danger of getting it misshapen. Take the Surefirm file and level off the top.
Do you need to do any paddling or anything on the outside to reinforce the seams, or are the coils inside enough?
The coils inside are enough. So once you get it level looking, you're going to turn it over and get the other side. While I was waiting for this to dry up, I looked at the top and the base that I had made earlier, and I decided that the base I made was a little bit too small for what I wanted to do, so I made a slightly bigger base. Because when I'm making my boxes, and this might turn into a little teapot, who knows, I like to have it sticking out from the bottom, like I did on this one. This one. So, but even if you want it to fit perfectly, you need to have it larger to begin with, so that after you attach it, you can cut away that part. But remember when I cut it, I said 3 by 5, so I went back, I realized, oh, that's not going to be big enough for me to have the overlap, so I made this even a little bit bigger than I made the secondary one. So now, I'm just getting it on the base and turning it and making sure it's centered on there. Take a tool and mark where it goes. And then because I have found through, some experience with hand building, that if you take this off and you turn it, it might not register correctly, because it might be slightly off. So what I'm going to do is I draw like a little registration mark to know which side to put with which side. So I'm going to put a little smiley face here, and then I'm going to do the same thing down here on the bottom, so I know to put it back in the same direction once I do my scoring. I'm going to start by doing a little water, then scoring. And people have asked me, because they've tried to put the box on a base that's heavily patterned like mine, and they say, how do you get it level? Because it's like all bumpy. So my secret to getting them to fit well is do lots and lots of scoring, so that when you place this part down on here, it kind of squishes down onto it. A little more water. Score again. My little happy face side towards me. And then find the happy face side on this. Right there. Thank you. Okay, so that's going to go in that direction. I should do the happy face on the outside. So that just a little registration mark. So I do that on the lids too, because a lot of times my lids fit better going in one direction than the other. So even when my teapots are done, a lot of times you'll see the little registration mark on there. Lots and lots of scoring. Place it on top. Get it situated. Press down from the top on it. Drop it gently onto its base to help join it together. And then what you're going to do is take a coil and do a reinforcement coil on the inside. I'm not going to do that for the demo or for the video, because you're just going to see me doing this. So basically you just take a coil and run it in there. If you can't get your hand down inside there, you're going to take something like this and press the coil into place. So you want to run a nice coil around there, especially if this is going to be a teapot. I want it to be completely waterproof. So then once I get the coil on the inside, I let this dry up a little bit, and then I come back and gently smooth that down. Try not to get rid of my texture when I do that. So that's why it's a good reason to let it dry up a little bit right now, because if you do it right now, it's just going to smear every which way. Okay, so for the lid for this, I cut a little slab here that I'm going to use for the lid, and let me show you where I'm going with this so you can kind of see the progression. So I've been fond lately of doing these lids that look sort of like little houses. So that's what I'm going to do for this one. So here's my cut piece. Then I take a tube or something and wrap it gently around that. And you can't do this when it's too dry, because it'll really start to crack. And then size it up. So that's about what I want for this. It's a little bit too long there. I'm going to put it back on top of the tube to do some cutting, because the tube is round like this, so it makes it easier for cutting. And usually what I do is go down to the end like this, turn it over, and then it's really easy to just cut it. on, after I get the flange put on this, I'll come back and I'll do a little bit more shaving and fine tuning on that, but that's pretty good for right now. Just trying to get it somewhat centered. Now I want to make the flange to go on here. So I need to mark where the walls of the box lie against this. So I'm just taking a tool and marking where the edges are. And then again, I'm going to make like a little registration mark here for myself, because for sure the lid is only going to fit in one direction well. So happy face there, happy face on this side. Because the walls are 1/4 inch thick, if I put the wall right there, it would be right on top of here. So I want to come in about 1/4 inch, because that's the thickness size of the walls. So I mark in 1/4 inch from the marks I already made. And then I'm going to cut some strips to use for the flange. So I'm going to make something for the flange that looks like this. So basically it's another little box. I never did go back and finish that one yet that I started with the other class. So now we're going to cut more strips. So this is leftover strips I made from the box. So as you're cutting your strips for the box, keep all the extra pieces and keep them wrapped up as you're working. And if you're not finished and you need to store everything, store it all together in the same enclosure so it keeps the same consistency. Just going to cut a few pieces for the flange. Usually one long strip on a box of this size will be plenty. Depends upon what size you're going on your box, but for this size box, this should be enough for all the pieces. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is cut these two end pieces because they're curved. So I'm going to get about the size I want, so I'm measuring it against my mark there and cutting. And I cut another piece the same amount. Now I'm going to hold it against this curve. Use the curve to help cut it. Yeah. Sometimes it can really make sense. There's a lot of fiddliness going on here, though, you'll see. Even though you measure, there'll be a lot of extra fiddling and fine-tuning that you have to do here to make it all fit together. Okay, and then I want to cut two strips, but I'm going to wait a second on that because I want to get my measurement first for this. So see, this is going too far. These are too wide for this, so I'm going to cut them. And you don't have to miter the edges of this, by the way. Okay. And then I'm going to do a temporary score job, so I'm not trying to do it really perfect or forever. This is just to get placement. So there's my smiley face, and then my smiley face is on this side. This is just a, no, it's actually good. You want it to drop straight down in there. So that's pretty good. Let me see if I can make it any tighter. Oh, that's about right. Okay, so that's going to be my placement for those. Now I want to come in here and get this one cut. Cut the two pieces the same. So once I cut one piece, I usually use that one to cut the second piece, same thing that I did on the sides of the box. So your requirement for the box is that it has some kind of impressed texture that you've stretched, and then a box that has a flange on, a lid that has a flange on it. So it can be whatever shape you want. Okay, those look like they're going to fit fine, so I'm going to do a temporary scoring job on this too. You want to make sure it fits well before you go to the really intensive scoring.
How deep does the flange need to be?
It depends upon whether it's going to be a teapot or just a box. So if it's just a box, it needs to be about, quarter inch or so. Maybe half an inch, let's say. Okay, that's great. So that fits in there just perfectly. So now I can go back and score and and put a reinforcement coil in there and really do a permanent job with it now. So I think you guys know how to do that. And that's another thing, if I do, you're going to see me going like this. So I'll pretend like I'm doing it right now. Okay, so then once you get that well scored together and put on there, then you can start thinking about the final shaping of this. So now that I have the flange on there, I can go back with this, and this is set up enough so that I can use this to scrape, but don't do it if this is still kind of soft, because it'll like misshapen it. So now I can look at it and see that this side kind of dips down, so you just do your fine tuning. So you can do it right on top of the form if you want.
And what's the drying time for that, Melody? How would we,
How
many weeks of wrapping or?
Well, what I like to do, because a lot of people complain about their seams ripping open.
Right.
So my first thing I've offered to you guys this semester as a way to prevent that from happening is to score further than what you think you're going to need. Then as you're drying it, you want to wrap up the whole thing together and leave it wrapped up at least 24 hours. And then check it. And then if it seems like it's starting to dry well, what you can do is you can take wax resist and put wax resist on everywhere where you have seams. So if it feels like, after 24 hours that it started to set up a little bit, you can take the plastic off and put wax resist on it. But I wouldn't be in any hurry to get this into the damp room. That's why I'm showing you early enough in the semester, in the kiln room. I'm showing you early enough in the semester so you have plenty of dry time. You really can't be slow enough. There's no such thing as being too slow in the drying of these boxes, because they will split open at the seams if you go too fast. So I do suggest very slow. So the rule of thumb is 24 hours under plastic, but when I make them at home, I don't have a damp room. So some I made like a month ago. They're still under plastic.
So do you have to wax resist if you're going to keep it wrapped that whole time?
I still,
You do,
once I take it out of the plastic is when I wax resist it. When I wax resist it, I don't put it back under the plastic.
Okay.
Okay, so at least 24 hours under the plastic. If it's still really soft, keep it wrapped up. So keep it wrapped up for a week, maybe under plastic. And then when you finally bring it out, wax resist every seam and every corner. Just, I probably overdo it, but my boxes don't crack. So, nothing like spending all the time you're gonna spend on your boxes and then they crack open. That's really discouraging. So now for a hand, you need some kind of handle on your piece. So, you know, you can do things like that. A little handle like that.
Is that a requirement?
A handle?
Yeah.
Well, it depends. It depends upon how your lid is.
Like if your
Like for
lid
s-
is overlapping, like kind of like yours,
Like
you
I
can
would
just pick it up
probably
like that.
never pick it up like that. It's more convenient on a lid to pick it up with a handle. But, you know, if you have a smaller one, like this one, this could be picked up without a handle. But then let's talk about, you know, the way it looks. Maybe it's gonna look better with a handle. It kind of gives it a finishing note to have a handle. Same thing, so the handle will be optional.
Okay.
Same thing with feet. Maybe you would like feet on yours and maybe not. So here we have this little box like this. If I put some feet on it, let's just raise it up a little bit to look at it and see what we think. Okay, so if we attach little feet, see what it does? It just gives it that little bit more bit of importance. The other thing I like about putting feet on it, and you saw it, you know, just like I cut little pieces of that, so it doesn't even have to be high feet. The lovely thing about doing that is that you can glaze the bottom, and that makes it so much nicer. Glaze the bottom of them, makes them stronger too. So I try to put feet on all of mine just because I think it looks better like that than like that. It just makes it feel a little more like it's on a little pedestal. Some people have asked me, because they saw on Facebook those ones I did that, you know, I have like my little dogs as handles on them. Okay, oops, I just smashed that. Okay, so there's my little guy. So some people have asked me, how do you do those? So I'm going to show you. So I have this little curly cutting wire. It's got curly. I take a slab of clay like this, and then when I go through it, I jiggle it so that it gets this pattern on it like that. So it has like a, can you see that, Pernos? So it has like a wavy pattern on it. And then this is a lot easier to do at home because I have my dogs running around, so I can kind of look at them and then catch them when they're like in the process of. I go to the straight wire, and also at home I have a smaller one of these that's a little easier to use for this. But then I just cut into it. So I have German Shepherds, so they're kind of easy. They have big ears and big mouths and fuzzy tail, so I'm just kind of cutting. And they're not anatomically correct, as you can quite obviously see, but you know. Maybe another over there. But like I say, it's a lot easier to do this at home where I can see the guys, but.
Where did you get the squiggly wire?
It's a Cheryl tool.
Okay.
So it's one of those, like those mud wire tools.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see I'm starting to get the dog shape. Something like that. And then I love to put the little ice to go through. So like I say, obviously not anatomically correct. You get the idea, it's some kind of critter, right? Okay, and then I attach those onto the top. Any questions about the thing? In a little while, I'm going to show you how to make a spout for it in case you want to do, and a handle on the side in case you would like to do a teapot with yours. Because some people have asked, can we turn them into teapots? The answer is yes.